What's going on, guys? Foresight Capital here. Just wanted to drop in with some pricing predictions for NEO heading into earnings tomorrow afternoon. I've gotten a couple of side emails asking just what my price targets are for NEO, where I would buy, where I would sell. And if you watched either of the past two videos that I made on NEO, you would know that I'm primarily short biased on this stock, but I would consider entering some long positions. So I wanted to highlight the areas here where I would consider a long position. Now, NEO closed at about 45.50 this afternoon, and then in aftermarket hours spiked to 47.60. So a really big run up in after hours, and it shows that the bulls still have control of the stock currently, even after the little bit of a sell-off caused by the Citron report, which basically just kind of called out one fundamental aspect of NEO and then one sort of circumstantial aspect where there aren't a ton of short sellers on NEO currently. But realistically, if we zoom out here and look at even a 20-day chart, you can see why the bears are scared and why there aren't a ton of short sellers, because even over the past 20 days, NEO has more than doubled, which if we look back at the year chart, they've actually gone up over 2,500% at one point before the slight pullback. So there's no reason to really be short this stock right now, because we can see that the bulls are in control and they can really kind of run with this thing. So as we see here, all-time high, $54.20 before a big sell-off from the Citron report. Some weakness this morning, and then we just kind of consolidated all day long. But at the end of the day, and actually in after hours, we broke above this $47 barrier. And I think if I were to buy NEO tomorrow, the very first level that I would look at, and this is the red level because it's the one that I would consider the least because I don't feel like the value's there, would be the $47 level. Why would I buy NEO at this particular price? If we open tomorrow and then trade the entire day above a $47 price point and close above it, then technically speaking, the next level up for NEO would probably be the $54.20 level, which is about a $7 win. And that's about a 13% return on investment. So if that happened either right after the earnings report or even in the week following, that could be a really nice return on your invested capital. What I think needs to happen for this particular gap up to happen is for NEO to beat on both earnings per share and on revenues. We already know that they've had record deliveries. In fact, if we go over here and pull up Yahoo Finance, we can see that they reported 12,206 vehicles in the September quarter, which is 154% higher than last year's quarter three numbers. So we're going to see some stellar earnings no matter what. I think that the expectation all around is for NEO to beat those earnings, and that's why we're seeing this run up and really overall huge run up in price, because the expectation is that there's just going to be some crazy earnings releases. So that would be my first level of buy here. My next level of buy, one that I would consider a little bit more so, is actually this $43.75 to $44 range. This has acted as some support throughout the day before ultimately leading to a slight leg higher above this $47 level. And so I think that this gives you a little bit more downside cushion. In fact, it's currently about $3 underneath the current share price. So it'll give you about an 8% drop off and an 8% extra cushion on your position for some downside protection. So this is kind of a level that isn't well defined because it really was just kind of established today with the consolidation after the big drop off from the Citron report. But again, we're working with very short-term information here with NEO, as we are with a lot of the stocks that haven't had consistent earnings releases or haven't been around for a while, especially ones that are losing money every single quarter, where the expectation is that they're going to lose money, because at that point it's all very speculative. So all we can really go off of with these big run-ups is the technicals and what's causing these huge run-ups like this and the huge sell-offs like the one we had on Friday, which just looks crazy and dwarfs all of the other candles out there. And as we can see, even with this little 2-day chart, there's a very defined bottom here, which we're going to talk about as kind of my next entry level. So if we hop back over here to the 20-day 1-hour chart, zoom in again, my third level of entry, and the one that I would feel safest at, is technically the $40 to $40.50 range that we had a recent double bottom on. Now again, I don't know if you can call this a double bottom because this was realistically over a one trading day period, but we did see the big sell-off end with this kind of long candlestick to the bottom before a consolidation and then a retest, and then a rally up in the afternoon and through the rest of the trading day. So realistically here, we did see that act as a strong support line, and if we extend this out to the left, I'm not sure that there are really any other levels of support. It kind of breaks through the middle of some of the candles. So again, we can see that this is realistically just a short-term trend that's been defined here, but one that looks to be very strong. So personally, if I were to buy NEO long over the coming days after earnings, if it fell, I would buy it at around the $40 per share price, which I think is going to be a great cost basis for your shares. In fact, if we hop over here to the CNN forecast prediction, the CNN business forecast, we can see that they have 17 analysts currently reporting on NEO and have given their expectation for the share price over the next 12 months. And the absolute worst prediction of the 17 was that NEO closes about even with where it is now, or about 8% off at that $44 per share level, with the median expectation being that over the next year, NEO rises in value 240%, which is absolutely insane. And you would think realistically that if analysts truly believed these numbers, that the price would already be higher because some of the large institutions would have already come in and scooped this up. Although we saw today that some large institutions did come in and scoop up some NEO, and so that's interesting and adds to the dynamic that potentially this is just a small pullback in a very large bull run. And then towards the high end of the analyst expectations here, we actually see expectations for upwards of $300 per share in the next 12 months, which is 580% ROI. So absolutely crazy predictions. And if you want to go leveraged and buy calls, I mean, I don't even blame you at these sort of levels when kind of the worst expectation is to be even with now. Now, of course, these are just analyst expectations, just a few of them, and we don't even know which sort of analysts they are, if they're small regional banks or some of the larger Goldman Sachs out there. But if we scroll down a little more here, we see that 9 of the analysts recommend buying, 4% holding, and only 2 selling. And, the sale side, I can definitely see what they're talking about because, again, if we zoom out to the 1-year chart, we can see that NEO has gone from under $2 per share to over 50. So there's definitely some merit in saying, sell and possibly buy back at a lower level. But at this point, when there's so much just kind of volume and overall excitement behind the upward movement that we're seeing in the stock, I think maybe you don't even buy and you just kind of average down if you truly believe that this is going to go in the direction that some of these other analysts do in the $300 per share range or even $150. Both of those are great returns, obviously, for a 1-year period where a worst case is losing about 10%. And again, these are just expectations, obviously not reality, and a lot can change over a year. But it's very promising to see that that's kind of the worst expectation with the individual stocks. So we can also see here their sales forecasts are looking to grow very exponentially. As far as reported sales, we've seen a big step up, but the real big step ups are supposed to be in 2020 and 2021, which probably lends to the analyst expectations that the stock is going to go up here in the short term. And then the earnings per share, which again, I've harped on, sales and earnings per share are realistically going to be the 2 biggest numbers for NEO moving forward. When they reported earnings, they were short both recent earnings, and the expectation is that they come very close to profitability in 2021. So again, this is analyst forecasts, and obviously these analysts are very bullish, but it would be nice to see the company turn a profit in 2021. Because at this point, with this sort of run-up and having the losses that they currently have, it would be very interesting to see what sort of pricing impact that could have on the overall stock. So again, just to kind of reiterate, the levels that I would be looking at buying would be, I wouldn't be a fan, but I would consider toying around with a position at the 47 level. I would definitely look at entering at the 44 level, or at least start to consider it a little bit more. Possibly if I bought at the 47 level, I would consider adding to my position if I'm ultimately bullish on the stock at around the 44 level, and then I'm a big buy at about 40 when we've seen this double bottom, assuming that it holds. So if the stock comes back down, holds this 40 level, and then starts any sort of trend back up, that's when I would buy. Ultimately, I would take profit at all-time highs, at least some profit. So as a trader, I like to scale out of my positions at 50%. So if I bought 1,000 shares of NEO at $40 per share, I would ultimately end up taking about half of it off at $54.20, and then let the rest of it ride and establish, based on the price action, the point at which I would sell the rest of the shares. You're entirely okay to take 100% of your profits. I mean, obviously, if you bought in the 40 range or even the 47 range, at minimum, you've got a 13% profit, which is great, assuming that it happens over any reasonable amount of time. So again, look at taking profits near all-time highs, at least some of it. Maybe even take all of your cost basis out and then just let the rest ride as kind of free money. I could definitely see this bull run getting extended, and while I'm not a fan of it in the short term until they have some more solid sales growth and earnings per share, I can definitely see the exuberance behind the stock and think that it could keep running in this crazy fashion that it already has. So just kind of wanted to drop in again and highlight my levels where I would buy, sell, and then be a major buy, just for the people who have asked via email. So keep the questions coming either via email or in the comments. I really appreciate you guys watching to the end. Don't forget to subscribe if it brought you some value. Thank you all for stopping by, and catch you in the next one.